Hi, everybody. For those still in here or already back in here, I am sending the link in the chat to a YouTube live stream. We couldn't use this before because Speech was using it for live stream, but this is where we're going to be broadcasting finals. So if you want to go ahead and send it over to your team or whatnot, feel free to, but it's also posted on the live doc and I'm going to email it out to the coaches.
I had a question for the tab staff.
Yes.
So I guess can multiple of these proposals pass in conjunction, or is it just the proposal with the most votes passes?
Yeah, at the end, we're going to go through and vote on each one individually, so multiple can pass.
Okay, thank you.
We have 2 more minutes until the start of session 2. And before starting, I sent this before, but a few of you were not in the chat. We have switched over to a YouTube live streaming instead of the Zoom link. We just couldn't use that before because speech finals was using the live stream link. So I emailed that out to your coaches and also put it on the live doc. I'll send the link once more in the chat. So feel free to contact anybody who you know has been watching it before we start the round and just direct them all to the live stream link instead of the Zoom.
You're muted right now, by the way.
Yeah, I was telling the Zoom chat to switch over to the YouTube link.
Gotcha. Okay. Also, really quick, I see some people in like competitors in here that have just like their name is like their school code. It'd be helpful, at least for me, if you could just put like sen or rep and then your name, just so we can distinguish really quickly, just like hovering over your video, so I can make sure I'm scoring the right person. You know. Thank you.
All right, welcome back, competitors. If you could please turn on your cameras. It is 2:49 Eastern Time, and we are starting part 2 of finals. All right. Waiting on a couple more. All right, perfect. So can I just get a verbal confirmation that all the judges are currently present? You don't have to turn your camera on if you're not comfortable, but.
Ready.
Ready? All right. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, looks like we are good to go. I'm gonna pass it over to your first part PO to conduct the next PO elections, and then we can get right into debate. Remember that recency and precedence does not reset, meaning if the new PO can please get that chart from the previous one to make sure that we are still following recency and precedence. So I will hand it over to the PO.
Thank you. And yes, that conversion of data has already happened, and the new PO presumably will have access to my new sheet. With that, are there any points or motions on the floor? Senator Resnick.
On the floor for PO nominations.
Are there any seconds to that motion? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, so ordered. Are there any nominations? Senator Karim.
I nominate the Honorable Senator Spencer.
Senator Spencer, do you accept?
Nomination.
You were muted.
Sorry, I accept the nomination.
Okay, excellent. Are there any other nominations? Hold on, everybody's cameras just froze on me. Seeing none, are there any motions? Senator Wilkes.
Close the floor for PO nominations.
Are there any seconds to closing the floor for PO nominations? Any opposed to that motion? Seeing none opposed, so ordered, and seeing as there was only one nomination, congratulations, Senator Spencer, you are PO for this session.
Thank you, and it is an honor to be presiding this session. Before we begin, I'll just briefly go through some of the procedures. I know this is the second half of the final round, so we don't need as comprehensive an overview. I am going to be posting a link to the PO sheet. It's the same one as the first session, but just in case you close the doc. Everything did not reset, so your precedence and recency will be from the first half of the round. It is all on the doc as it was. For this next round, just a couple different procedures, of course, due to the scenario. There will be, of course, no affirmative or negative speeches. You will be speaking all not on a side, but for your own proposal. So for that, I will not call for affirmative or negative speakers, but everyone will rise for the same type of speech. The first and second speeches will still have 4 blocks of direct cross-examination, and all of the next speeches will still have 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. In terms of timing procedures, for speeches, it will be the exact same as for the first half. At 2 minutes, I will hold up a 2-minute card. At 2:30, I will hold up a 2:30 card. At 2:55, I will hold up a 2:55 card. At 3 minutes and 5 seconds, your grace period has begun. This is the time for you to start wrapping up your speech. At that point, I will hold up 10 fingers and I will begin counting down. If at 3:15 you show no indication that you are on your last word, I am going to have to cut you off in the interest of preserving time. For questions, at 20 seconds out of the 30-second block, I will hold up a fist, showing you have 10 seconds left. And at 25 seconds, I will hold up 5 fingers and begin counting you down until I get to 30 seconds. And if you're not wrapping up the last word of a question or answer, I will cut you off at 30 seconds. With that said, of course, there is no legislation, and our dockets are speeches on the provisions. Before I begin, are there any questions regarding my procedures? Seeing no questions, I will unilaterally move to reopen the floor for debate following our indefinite recess. Are there any first speeches? Senator Capelloni.
I thank the chair. For the judge's reference, that's Senator Capelloni speaking for the second time in today's round, this time in favor of certain provisions instead of on the affirmation or negation of any bill. Since there's a lot of judges, I'll just start unless any judges aren't ready. Please verbally indicate if you need a little more time. Ever since World War II, this Congress has turned its back on advocating for peace. Since then, it seems like we no longer talk with diplomacy and good intentions, but rather fight with fire and force. And when the talking ceases, the violence starts. So let's finally start talking and stop fighting. First, let's understand why many of these potential provisions are simply not feasible. Provision 3 attempts to establish a naval blockade of China, but the Economic Times finds on September 17th of this year that China's navy is 21% larger than ours, and they have the geographical advantage, having a country right next to the water, meaning they can have missiles and other forms of defense a lot more readily available than America's navy can. That means that China is going to sink our ships, and we will have sunk billions of dollars of military equipment and hundreds of American lives for a failed blockade. That doesn't solve the problem, it just drowns out more Taiwanese hope. Provision 2 sends 25,000 troops over to Taiwan, but the South China Morning Post writes that China has over 2 million active members of their military. 25,000 troops is irrelevant in comparison. I'm not willing to sacrifice 25,000 lives when we know they stand no chance of beating China's massive army. I'd rather that this Congress talks at the negotiation table than see more American troops die in a war zone. That's why I support provisions 1, 5, 7, and 8 to focus on diplomacy instead of direct military action. Provision 1 would use the power of U.S. sanctions to coerce other countries to stand on our side of the conflict. And Section 5 helps build our alliance with Russia to ensure that they work with us against Chinese expansion. But provisions 7 and 8 are the most important. Provision 7 adds Taiwan to the United Nations to finally give them a say in international affairs. But Section 8 takes the step of removing China from the UN Security Council, also known as the UNSC. Something that is definitely possible because all other 4 permanent members have already declared that they plan to stand with Taiwan in this conflict. But why should removing China from the UNSC define today's debate? Right now, as a permanent member of the UNSC, China can veto any resolution they take, effectively paralyzing any United Nations actions against Chinese aggression. But when we kick China off the UNSC, we can finally leverage the international community to stop Chinese expansion. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, there are principally 2 things that the UNSC can do to counter China once China is removed from the Council. First, it can leverage unilateral sanctions from every single United Nations member country. And second, it can declare massive joint military efforts that combine the military strength of every United Nations Security Council member towards one goal, both of which China cannot stand up to. China might be able to fight back against us, but it is through our alliances and international cooperation that we can finally achieve Chinese capitulation. Instead of trying to deter China through examples of our power, utilize the power of our examples to save the people of Taiwan. My plan makes sure that the door to communication is always open, and that the pathway to violence is always shut. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Class teacher, 3 minutes and 9 seconds. Seeing as that was our first speech, we're now in line for 4 blocks of direct cross-examination. All which question the speaker, please raise a placard now. Okay, that will first go to Senator Kareem.
Hey, Senator. So for countries that don't want to recognize Taiwan's independence as a result of China's huge trade and basically ability to sanction them, why should we be punitively harming our very own allies?
They're not our allies if they're standing with China over us. It essentially forces them to
But
make a
that's not
decision whether to stand
necessarily
with us
true,
or
right?
with China.
Like, our allies don't want to feel the wrath of China's huge trade power because they can levy sanctions.
If the
right?
entire international community takes one side in this issue, that is how we stop China, by
But it
working
still
together
doesn't really
with our
matter.
allies.
It's still individually hurt
Senator
by
Lin.
the country.
How do we remove China off of the UN Security Council?
Okay, so essentially every single other member of the UN Security Council that has any power
Yeah,
also needs to remove China.
every single permanent member has to vote in favor of that. If China is a permanent member, would they ever vote?
I completely agree. It's an unprecedented action, but every single other permanent member has already expressly declared that
those
they
are
are
the
standing
rules.
against China.
Those are the rules. It seems unsavory, but those are the rules, right?
We can change the rules. The
How
UN
do you
Security
change
Council
the
has not always existed.
Senator Resnick.
Hi, so on our last session, we imposed sanctions on China. Why would anything change when we reimpose sanctions on China?
So the big difference here is that once we kick them off the UNSC, the entirety of the
No,
international community
I'm
will be
talking about
involved.
Provision 1, right? You said that that's going to force them to the diplomacy table.
No. Provision 1 is not about China. It's about other countries. It essentially forces those
So
countries to
what
pick
other
sides.
country is going to stand against the United States other than maybe North Korea?
Yeah, exactly. Not many other countries will be standing
Senator
against it.
Sure.
That's why it's not like a huge provision.
Hi, Senator. So you tell us that the China military will overpower Taiwan, and I agree with that. But will they still be able to do that if they have the whole international world behind Taiwan?
No, if the entire international community backs Taiwan, China does not stand a chance.
Right. Exactly. So then why would we?
That's what I'm saying. If we
Well,
kick
the
China off the
Taiwan
UNSC,
military.
we can finally bring the international community together to fight back against China.
But if we support Taiwan's military by providing them with more arms, doesn't that help?
The question block has elapsed. The speaker and all questions may meet themselves. Seeing as that was our first speech, we are now in line for another speech. All which speak, please raise a placard now. Of those wishing to speak, that will go to. I'm sorry, Senator Kaiser, are you going up for a speech? I noticed your raise hand feature is on.
I would like to speak, but I believe I don't have recency, so I lowered my placard.
Oh, okay. Well, Senator Kukoji.
I'm experiencing a little lag, so everyone can hear me, right? Okay, awesome. All right, that is Senator Kukreja, spelled Kukreja, speaking for the second time in this legislative session. Assuming all my judges are ready, unless I am verbally told, I will begin. The title, Global Superpower, cannot be self-claimed. It needs to be earned. And yet, time and time again, we seem unready and unwilling to fit the role, letting fear and reluctancy block us from protecting the planet. Today, the life of Taiwan is on the line. Let's not be reluctant and pass 3 key provisions, consisting of 2, 3, and 8. We must consider Provision 2, which deploys 25,000 troops and $1 billion in aid to Taiwan for its military. Basically, the problem essentially arose since Taiwan received a much less than anticipated amount of US soldiers. But it is important to note that even in this scenario, China has not launched an attack on the US soldiers. They simply exploited the fact that we didn't have enough of a presence to protect Taiwan. Senator Capelloni, our troops aren't useless, rather we strengthen Taiwan through this. But let's look at what happens when we increase the pressure. The director of South China Sea Strategic Situation Probing Initiative, Hubo, commented that increasing military operations resulted in an increased regional presence, better cooperation with regional allies, bolstered military deterrence against China. We can expect the same to occur when we deploy troops in Taiwan due to this effect. And secondly, remember what I said in my previous speech about China not stopping at Taiwan? That means neither can we. Senator Capelloni, recognize expanding our presence allows us to establish more alliances with countries in the Taiwan Strait and South China Sea, ensuring that we have the ability to prevent China from increasing their geopolitical power. These alliances allow us to defend Taiwan and recognize them as independent. Provision 3 then establishes a naval and land blockade on the border of China at the Taiwanese Strait. In my previous speech, I also bring up a Brookings report, which explained that our only means of deterrence would be to launch an attack much farther from China's mainland onto them because we are geographically far from them. That happens when we don't include Provision 3. That means inevitable armed conflict and war are to occur. But when we have a naval presence, that means it doesn't have to come to China wanting to attack us. Lastly, Provision 8, which is proposing the removal of China as a UN Security Council member, leveraging UN funding. Senator Capelloni, if we recognize Taiwan as a member through Provision 7, China is going to be further angered, just like how they acted when Taiwan was recognized in the WHO. Let's understand that the UN is extremely effective at getting concessions out of China. The Washington Post analyzed 250 UN Council resolutions in September of 2020, and they found that they are highly effective because they put countries that don't comply in the spotlight. We are giving China the option of doing the right thing or being looked down upon by every member of the UN. This makes it so much harder for China to achieve any agenda in the UN if they don't comply with us. And this isn't just theory, it's worked in the past. NPR reports in March of 2016 that China fell in line and sanctioned North Korea once they realized they did not have the political will to oppose the US on the UNSC. The UN ensures that China would doubt its own actions by not complying with them. Pass provisions 2, 3, and 8 for a prosperous future where Taiwan still remains for
Thank you,
its
Senator, for a
ally.
speech of 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Seeing as that was our second speech, we're now in line for 4 blocks of direct cross-examination. All who wish to question the speaker, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Locke.
How many troops did we send to Taiwan over the previous legislation?
Well, it's around the same amount.
Yeah.
It's around the same, yeah.
Okay, Senator Reid's already explained to you that China already drastically outnumbers us in the region, and we've only seen them increase aggression since we've sent troops there. Why?
No. They still didn't attack us, even though we had less amount of
But
soldiers.
they've taken our entire military hostage
No.
there. Why is that a good thing?
When we add more troops in, that's an additional 25,000. That gives China a sign that we're not tolerating their aggression.
Senator Capelloni.
Hands on the
Hi, Senator. Great speech. So I agree the international community should fight back against China, but India and Russia both have land borders with China. Why is that not preferable to naval action?
Naval action would be a better option because, like I said, we would have the allies of our allies that are in that Pacific area.
But we also have allies who share the borders, right?
Yeah.
Like India and Russia both share land borders.
But
which are a
at
lot
the
easier
same
to
time,
cross.
if we look at this geographically, near the Taiwan Strait, it would be the best option to comply with Japan or other allies since
Senator
they are
Eads.
nearby, so we would be able to attack.
Hi, Senator. Great speech. So, just to clarify, how many troops/soldiers does China have right now?
You can tell me.
2.8 million as of 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So, in what world is 25,000 to 2.8 million a fair
I think
fight?
what you're failing to recognize here is that you're thinking that they're going to go into conflict immediately. What I'm telling you
Well,
is that
it seems
China's
like
not
they've
gonna-
already gone into conflict.
Can you let me
So,
speak? What I'm telling you is that China's not going to put hands on American soldiers because they didn't do that with the past provision either.
they have them
Senator
held
Wilkes.
hostage.
Is Taiwan not already a lost cause?
Sure, it is, but through through the 2, 3, and 8 provisions, we just ensure that they have their own land.
Okay, so right now, China has all of our troops like inside of prisons, right? They have them hostage. How is 25,000 troops going to be anything different than the last time?
The difference here is that we're not tolerating Chinese aggression. They're not going to put
We
hands
said we
on
weren't
our
going to tolerate it
soldiers
last
or on
time.
these
They killed all of our troops and put them all in prisons. Like, how is it?
Question block has elapsed. The speaker and questions may meet themselves. Seeing as that was our second speech, we're now in line for another speech. Senator Khan, is that a motion?
No, sorry, I was just
Okay. So we'll now move on to another speech. All wish to speak, please raise a placard now. Those wishing to speak, that will first go to Senator Olakwa.
Thank you. This is Senator Olakwa speaking for the first time today, first time this session. That's Olakwa, spelled ILACQUA for my judges. If you are not ready for me to begin, please feel free to give me any indication that you are in such a state. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and get this started. All right, excellent. Often, when designing foreign policy, it seems as though this Congress gets bogged down by the details of long-term strategy, as opposed to small tactical victories in the short term. It's because passing my proposals to ratify proposals to increase our support for Russia, and in addition, to remove China from the UNSC, allow us to have more victories in the short term, I am imploring that you pass. First off, let's analyze the status quo. That is, that China has massive international dominance due to its Belt and Road Initiative. As the Green Finance and Development Center explains on January of 2021, China provides infrastructure support to almost 140 nations throughout the world with vast economic incentives, meaning that most countries are more likely to agree with them in the UN as opposed to the US. But here's the thing. By passing this legislation, we no longer give China the opportunity to continue to invest in these countries because they're preparing for war. That means that any of the economic incentives proposed by these countries to support China in the past now turn to the US. But second, let's discover why Russia is also more impactful and beneficial to us as well. That's because, as the Carnegie Moscow Center explains, on October 8th, 2021, Moscow has always, even during the worst years of Sino-Soviet confrontation, regarded Taiwan as an integral part of the PRC. The issue here is that when we pass this legislation, we are going to be able to get Russia on our side because they've lost the economic incentive to go and collaborate with China in the first place. Passing this legislation finally gets many international actors on our side, which is extremely beneficial to American democracy and the prosperity of Taiwan. But furthermore, Senator Kukrecha wants you to believe that when you pass her proposal to increase the amount of soldiers we have in Taiwan, we apply increased pressure on China. That's fundamentally not the case. That's because on the previous piece of legislation, we added another 25,000 soldiers to China. And where are they now? They're taken hostage. There's no reason to believe that 25,000 more troops are just going to fix this issue in the first place. But why is my proposal so much better than hers? Fundamentally, as the Microsoft Digital Defense Report shows in 2021, during the past year, 58% of all cyber attacks that Russia has conducted on other nation states have been successful. Understand that allowing our nation to collaborate with Russia under my proposal inherently allows us to get details like the location of our hostages and the location of the hostage president of Taiwan, fundamentally allowing us to end these short-term conflict to the best of our abilities. It's because our intelligence is critical to our success that we pass. But furthermore, Senator Lid is concerned that we can't kick China out of the UNSC. That's not the case. Chapter 13 of the UNSC Charter shows that a country can get kicked out of the UNSC with more than 2/3 majority vote from the UN General Assembly. Understand that with the decreased economic incentives countries have to collaborate with China as of the resultage of the passage of this legislation, we're fundamentally going to see them turning to us. And in turn, we access all of Senator Capelloni's impacts about the fact that Russia gets kicked out and the improvement that that brings to Taiwan. Pass by legislation for the people.
Thank you for that speech of 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Seeing as that was our third speech, we're now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All wish to question the speaker, please raise a placard now. That will first go to Senator Konda.
Hey, Representative. So Taiwan or China currently has about 25,000 American troops hostage, correct?
Yeah.
And, you know, bringing in Russia and kicking them off the UNSC, that would probably make them pretty angry, right?
Sure, but Russia also.
So if we make
capacities, because they have like offensive.
Is that going to instantaneously reclaim Taiwan and our troops?
No, but we get the location.
So doesn't that
of our hostages because Russia has like insane amounts of offensive.
But if they're angered, China can just harm our hostages, right?
No.
Hi, how many troops are there in Taiwan right now? Chinese troops.
I'm sure you can tell me.
Probably a few thousand, right? Like they wouldn't have sent millions of people to take over Taiwan. If we blockade the strait, wouldn't we only be fighting the troops that are already in Taiwan rather than the entirety of the Chinese military?
Like our naval blockade sent from troops from the U.S. is nowhere compared to like the naval capacity that China has in the region. Like
what about the naval capacity of the United States, Russia, and the UK?
Okay, the United States is not next to China.
The question block has elapsed. Speaker and all questioners mute themselves. Seeing as that was our third speech, we're now in line for another speech. All who speak, please raise a placard now. Okay, based on recency, that will go to Senator Xie.
I thank the chair. Hi, this is Senator Xie, speaking for the first time this session. As always, I'm at the leisure of all those above me, so judges and PO, I will assume you're ready unless you tell me otherwise. As one of the 7 wonders of the world, The Great Wall of China stands tall and proud, spanning tens of thousands of kilometers across China's ancient lands. But what once stood as a representation of China's sheer size now represents the great lengths China is willing to build up for itself and block out others. So if we finally want to break through China's wall, we pass my proposal. Now, human life is invaluable, so my main goal is to save lives. That's why my proposal will effectively counter China without the loss of innocent lives. Now, before I go into my legislation, I want to address some of the shortcomings of Senator Capelloni, Krukeja, and Alaqua's proposals. Now, both Senator Capelloni and Alacqua want to build our relations with Russia, but Russia simply isn't on the same page. As Senator Alacqua has already established, Russia recognizes Taiwan as part of China. And contrary to what he says, our economic leverage won't succeed, and the status quo won't change because they actually risk economic losses with China as well. According to the University of Oxford in 2021, the China-Russia relationship has in recent years been characterized primarily by increased international interaction, economic interaction. In 2020, $107 billion USD worth of trade has flowed between the two countries. And this also makes sense because Russia and China are more ideologically and politically aligned. So why would Russia support the US? They won't. But next, Senator Krukeja wants to supply Taiwan with troops and aid, but she fails to understand that Taiwan has already been seized by China. There is no way that our aid will ever be effective in the face of China's massive military. But next, we need to pass provisions 1, 7, and 8. First, we must economically sanction all countries who fail to recognize Taiwan as independent. The Atlantic Council tells us in 2019 that sanctions shift the context in which the target makes decisions. Over time, sanctions work when combined with broader diplomatic and political efforts. So the US is a global superpower. We have lots of influence over other regions. And so sanctions are an effective incentive for countries to comply with us and recognize Taiwan as independent. But next, when our sanctions work, we can pass provisions 7 and 8, which propose that Taiwan is permitted to the UN as a permanent member, as well as remove China from the UN. So in the status quo, the reason why Taiwan isn't in the UN is because of China. But they are so valuable to us, and we've seen that especially during the pandemic. NPR in October of 2020 tells us that according to Johns Hopkins University, just more than 500 people have contracted the virus in Taiwan, and only 7 have died in a population of over 23 million. So the reason that their handling of the pandemic was so good is because of their innovative ideas, like implementing digital databases into their healthcare system. So we're able to bring those new ideas and transparency into the UN. This contrasts with China's lack of accountability. Thus, we better the health of our global world. To break through the wall that China has built for itself, you pass my proposal.
Thank you, Senator. That's your 3 minutes and 10 seconds, seeing as that was our fourth speech. We're online for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All who wish to question the speaker, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Alacqua.
Do countries see China as an economically advantageous partner when it stops investing in their infrastructure?
No.
Okay, so in that case, why would we antagonize them with sanctions to make them dislike us as well, instead of welcoming them and trying to get them on our side amicably and through diplomatic relations?
So sanctions have been effective in telling countries that we want them to support our agenda over China's. And so they're more incentivized to comply with us in that case.
Okay.
Senator Yoon.
In your world, what is the incentive for China to stop what they're doing?
That's because there's like a lot of international pressure from every country around the world. So all that pressure builds up, and so China's more likely to comply with what we want them.
Wait, so they've done all this against international pressure. They've basically declared war on us, and then they're just going to be like, "Oh shoot, international pressure." Like don't we have to force them and incentivize them to change the way they're doing right now? Like,
yeah, we are with my proposal because they can't handle the pressure
being
of
mean to China and saying no, China, don't.
The question
do that
block has
anymore.
lapsed. The speaker and all questions may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our fourth speech, we're online for another speech. All which speak, please raise a placard now. Based on recency, that will go to Senator Konda.
I thank the chair. This is Senator Konda speaking second time in this chamber. Hopefully I can add a new perspective this round. If you're not ready, let me know, or else I'll be happy to start. Looks like everybody's ready, so I'll go ahead and start. At the end of World War II, this Congress ushered in a new era of warfare. The nuclear bomb devastated the world, but it was a necessary evil to stop an endless war. This time, it is not an end of a war that this Congress is faced with, but the rise of one. But for the sake of our world, this is a war that can't be allowed to start in the first place. Now is the time for drastic action. Pass provision number 6. Now, before you all stone me off the stage, hear me out. We can break down the situation into 2 key areas: what the US priority should be and how the United States can achieve that priority. Let's start by establishing the US priority. The US priority in this case should be to completely cripple Chinese forces before ever given a chance to retaliate. If we take an action that attacks China but doesn't completely cripple it, we risk angering China in the short term. Why is that bad? Because they're holding 25,000 American troops hostage and the entire island of Taiwan as a hostage. Angering China means China can just go back and harm those people as a retaliation for American actions. Literally every provision, except for one, attacks China, but doesn't instantaneously free American troops and Taiwan's government. For example, Representative Applebaum's point about economic sanctions may affect them in the long term, but at the moment, all it does is, again, anger China. So what provision allows this Congress to eliminate the threat of China and leave it unable to respond? The EMP. Call me crazy, but I promise you the Chinese officials on the other side of the world are crazier. A super EMP, also known as an enhanced EMP, is a super electromagnetic pulse, is a relatively new type of warfare in which a nuclear bomb is equipped with a far greater electromagnetic pulse and then detonated in space. The resulting shockwave cripples power grids, computers, satellites, but doesn't directly harm any people. The Defense Technical Information Center explains its activity, that China itself knows the havoc that an EMP would wreak. They note that an attack on any scale would eliminate power grids, destroy guided missile systems, and cripple communications. China is giving us the answer here. A super EMP would instantaneously freeze an entire country and make offensive attacks impossible, and thus retaliation against Taiwan or American hostages impossible as well. But how probable is it that an EMP can be made and deployed? Legitimately very likely. General Paul Silva, chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, explains that a global connection of satellites, like SpaceX's Starlink project, outlined in proposal number 6, are innovating new space capabilities, including space EMPs. Combine that with the fact that the premise of a space EMP is actually very simple, detonating a nuke in space, and developing a space EMP is very likely. Why is that the singular solution that you prefer above all else? It is because everywhere we go, this Congress leaves a river of blood and a flood of tears. If we allow China to start a war, then it will be your duty to tell the mothers and fathers of those 25,000 troops why they didn't come home. It'll be your duty to watch as Taiwan is razed to the ground. Before that day strikes, take drastic action. Do your duty. Pass number 6.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 9 seconds. Seeing as that was our 5th speech, we're now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All of which question the speaker, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Prasad.
Hey, Senator. So if we only launch offensive cyber operations, how is that the only incentive for China to just like give up what they're doing in Taiwan?
Because they can't do anything. I told you that power grids are knocked out, communications are wiped out, their entire military base knocked out. They literally are frozen. They cannot do anything. Even if they wanted to.
They just can't operate their military after one cyber attack.
That it's not a cyber attack, it's a super EMP. Knocks out every electronic in the vicinity. So yes, they can operate.
Okay, well, if it was that easy, how come we haven't done it?
Because we haven't been on the brink of war before.
Senator Wang.
So bouncing off the previous line question, right? You're basically saying that China will be frozen as a result of this EMP attack, right?
Yeah.
What is stopping China from retaliating with the same action against the US?
They can't because, again, like I said, all of their things are all knocked down.
Yeah. So
even if that's true, it is still
go ahead.
The same thing you just said applies to every other provision.
Yeah,
China
it's
can
under the
retaliate
assumption that we're going to destroy China, right? But in reality, they know how to
China.
protect themselves against an EMP attack.
We're temporarily knocking down their electrical grids, far
But
from
they
destroying.
have
Question block has elapsed. The
and they
speaker and all
have their
questions may now mute themselves. Seeing as was our 5th speech, we're now in line for another speech. All who speak, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Wilkes.
Thank the chair. Howdy again. Wilkes, W-I-L-K-E-S. Second time today. Give me an indication if you're not ready. Other than that, I'll go ahead and start. Okay. Let's get started then. In the American Revolution, we knew that odds seemed against us in our fight for independence. So we relied on unconventional methods of fighting. And look where we are. We're our own country now. But if last session taught you anything about what I believe, it's that America never backs down. I propose what I call Plan Don't Capitulate, because like I told you last session, America doesn't capitulate to the bullies. This plan only uses Provision 4, where the US conducts a covert operation to assassinate Chinese military leaders, a provision nobody in this round has even brought up, but gets everyone in this round what they want. Senator Kukreja, if there is anything this crisis has taught us, it's that any military action on China will be met with an equal, if not greater, response. When China sees our ships coming, they'll send more of their own. When China sees our troops coming, they'll send more of their own. But China can't see our spies coming. In the book Transforming U.S. Intelligence for a Regular War by author Richard Schultz, it shows the U.S. now has one of the most resilient and low-profile spy missions in the world. Senator Capelloni, Kukreja, Alakwa, and Jay, trying to get China out of the UNSC and Taiwan into the UN isn't going to create peace because they see us coming. Same thing for you, Senator Konda. Crippling the Chinese grid in the short term is a declaration of war in the long term once they recover. America needs a plan where we can combat Chinese leaders without revealing our hand. That's what my plan is all about. The Secretary of Defense found in their 2020 report that the Chinese military is conducted and advised by just a few top officials. In other words, China's military strategy is only significant with these leaders. When we assassinate these leaders with Plan Don't Capitulate, China's military is far less coordinated, making it easier to get our troops back and confront peace at last. But why should you care about all of this? Because the second the United States steps down and does nothing to hold China accountable, they take that as a free pass to keep terrorizing the region in the future. The RAND Corporation found in 2020 that China uses their military operations to test out how the US will react and strategize with that intelligence in the future. Senator Kukreja, Alakwa, and Jay, getting back Taiwan is a lost cause at this point. This debate is about the future of the US and China in getting troops out of Taiwan. Capitulating to China today isn't just conceding to one conflict. It's conceding to the next century of them. If we don't stand up against China now, we embolden them to do the same thing to country after country after country. If you don't take a stand now, when will you? Senator Kaiser said China fears nobody last session. I say, let's give them something to fear. Because if America stands for nothing, what will we fall for?
Thank you, Senator. These are 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Seeing as that was our sixth speech, we're now in line for 2 blocks of our cross-examination. All those stretching the speaker, please raise a placard now. That will first go to Senator Kukreja.
Hi, Senator. Considering that China doesn't want to lose its spot in the UN, why would they put more of our troops in their jails?
China isn't going to get removed from the UN when you pass, because whenever you do so, like China is like not allowed to do that because they have veto power on the Security Council. Like the whole system of the UN Security Council is corrupt.
No, but I've already proven to you that if we were to call them out, the UN would no longer comply with them. So
no, that's not what your evidence talks about at all. Your evidence just talks about want them.
Senator Capelloni.
Hi, Senator. Great speech. Can you just take me through the logistics of assassinating every high-ranking Chinese military official?
I'm not saying we should assassinate all of them, but we have some really good spies. I think we should launch them to have.
Wait, what evidence do you have that we have really good spies?
I'm sorry?
What evidence do you have about really good spies?
I gave you a book about it. It was like a comprehensive book by a few top university professors.
So these top university professors know that we have like spies inside the Chinese government that can just kill all the high-ranking officials.
They're not inside the Chinese government now, right? Like we send them to go assassinate.
Speaker, no questioners may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our sixth speech, we're now in line for another speech. All wish to speak, please raise a placard now. Yes, a message from Tab.
Hello, everyone. We have a mid-round update. We are really sorry to tell you and inform you of this information, but there has just been breaking news from Taiwan. The Taiwanese president, Tsai Ing-wen, has actually been executed by the Chinese government. Our NATO allies are calling for an American response to the execution, and China demands that we back down to their demands and allow for a total absorption of Taiwan, or American troops will pay the price.
Please adapt your speeches to reflect such update. Thank you.
Okay, with that said, we are now in line for another speech. All who wish to speak, please raise a placard now. And we'll go to Senator Applebaum.
I thank the chair. For the judges, that is Senator Applebaum, spelled Applebaum. If any indication if you are just not ready, and I'll happily begin in about 10 seconds. Okay, great. In the Taiwanese school system, children are still being taught that Taiwan is a part of China. It is absolutely horrifying. From once the second they are taught to read, they are taught that China has absolute power over them. With China's invasion, that false education might just become a reality. Taiwan can't hold out much longer, and neither can we. Peace is no longer an option. That's why we passed provisions 2 and 3. Now, as I told you on my last speech, the Taiwan Strait actually isn't favorable to ships for most of the year. It's only favorable for 2 months. That means we only have to hold off China for 2 months. And that's actually an advantage for provision 3. When we ensure a naval blockade and a land blockade over China, we ensure that they can't reinforce them by sea anymore. My two-pronged approach of blocking the sea and air will ensure that Taiwan is protected. As Brookings in April of 2021 states that for a roughly 2-month period beginning in late September, the waters of the Taiwan Strait are calm enough to be safely passable by most ships. Other than these 2 months, only ships specially designed to handle the rough waters can pass through the strait, which doesn't include Chinese military ships. So understand, Representative Capolini, even though they have a bigger Navy, our Navy is much more powerful, and we only have to hold out for 2 months. After 2 months, they can't reinforce by sea, which is their main method of reinforcement. Why is this so important? As Stanford in June of 2021 says that despite China's proximity to the island, a U.S. naval blockade can withstand a Chinese assault for at least 6 months, which is much greater than the 2 months we need. That is so crucial because it allows us to rule out the sea as a Chinese method for reinforcing and resupplying the war effort. But that's just defense by sea. But what's China's other method of invading Taiwan? The air. Kukreja, you mentioned provision 2, but I don't want to focus on the troops we send. I want to focus on the aid. Understand that the aid is actually going to get to the Taiwanese military because it's military aid. China does not have control of the Chinese military as outlined by the provisions. This is crucial because in Harvard of March of 2021 states that Taiwan's close proximity to China has caused the Taiwanese armed forces to adopt an air supremacy first strategy that emphasizes early warning. Taiwan has already established an air defense early warning network, which poses a credible deterrent against an air attack from the mainland. The addition of U.S. technology and aid to the Taiwanese arsenal would make it nearly impossible for China to reach the island by air. So understand, Representative Kukreja, it's already hard enough for China to reach Taiwan by air and resupply the war effort. Understand that our aid will be the deciding factor in combating these troops. Senator Wilkes, China isn't able to send more troops in the status quo because when we pass provisions 2 and 3, we ensure that by sea and by air, China cannot resupply the war effort. Remember that we only have to hold out for 2 months. Other than that, the Taiwan Straits are impassable to all Chinese warships. That's something that no other senator has mentioned in this debate, and that's extremely important. Everyone here wants to prevent the bloodshed of innocent Taiwanese people. Workplaces become war zones and buildings become bomb shelters unless we pass provisions 2 and 3. Please pass.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Seeing as that was our 7th speech, we are now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All who wish to question the speaker, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Ilako.
Okay, so Taiwan has been overrun by Chinese military, and the president is now dead. How can we ensure that our military aid gets where it needs to go?
Just because the Chinese military controls the government doesn't mean they control the military. It's military aid.
Okay, But if the president is the chief of the military, and now all of the troops in the region are held hostage, how is any of the military aid going to be effective at all?
Because we're sending more U.S. troops. Not all of the Taiwanese troops are held hostage.
Could be taken hostage.
Hey, Senator, so I'll simplify Senator Alaka's question a little bit more. So basically, who's going to be receiving like the aid that we're going to be allocating for Provision 2?
The military.
Okay, and the military has a leader, right?
Okay,
And it's supposed to
even
sign
if you
it.
say that the aid is not going to get there, Taiwan already has an air defense strategy. Understand that China cannot attack Taiwan by air already because it's so strong.
So in that instance, why are we even investing in land attacks? Why are we investing in Provision 2 specifically, even if they have like air defense?
Because we have more troops than
As
air.
now elapsed, the speaker and all questions may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 7th speech, we are now in line for another speech. All who wish to speak, please raise a placard now. We'll go to Senator Wang.
I thank the chair for my judges. Again, that's Wang, W-A-N-G. Is anyone not ready? Okay, great. Within the past few hours, we have painted a new reality where gunfire may be overwhelmingly common, burning up not just diplomacy, but seemingly our devotion to democracy as well. You see, now as this Congress finally feels the heat of conflict, we must help our foreign policy goals rise from their ashes. Sparks of fear have ignited a problem that hasn't been extinguished. Support my plan to stop regional stability from going up in flames. Given that the Taiwanese president was just executed, de-escalation is out of the question. Instead, we must position ourselves and our allies to succeed militarily. Given all the proposals thrown around in the past hour, I've concluded that our best option is to take a three-pronged approach. With 2, 3, and 5. Increase troops, place a naval blockade, and enhance cyber capabilities with Russia. This offensive position, through sending more troops and aid, inhibits China's ability to wage war. Senator Capelloni and Alaka argue that putting more troops in the region won't make a difference because we've already sent troops and they're being held hostage. China realistically can't hold 50,000 troops hostage. So look to the benefits when we have at least some sort of effective offense. The Military Times explains on September 1st, 2020, troop expansion increases the total number of assets available to deploy against China, explores forward-basing opportunities, and ensures that at a basic level, those countries side with the US rather than China in any possible conflict. Our blockade would also allow our troops to be even more successful by weakening China's military response. Senator Alagwa is skeptical that, given our geographic position, we wouldn't be able to do that. But the Naval War College Review writes in 2021, current American naval powers provide sufficient forces to enact a blockade anywhere in the world. If China decided to keep a permanent military force presence there, its self-sufficiency would be near zero. In the latter scenario, a blockade would be highly effective, with the Chinese troops on the island basically abandoned. Senator Capelloni argues that a blockade won't be effective because China is closer in proximity. In reality, precisely because of China's geographic position, blockades will be effective. The South China Morning Post tells us on August 24th, 2021, China's military made use of a large civilian cargo ship to transport troops, weapons, and supplies in a recent drill, which one of the analysts said would be used should the PLA launch an attack on self-ruled Taiwan. Given the mid-round update, our priority is to end the conflict as quickly as possible, before more lives are lost. Putting a blockade in the region hinders China's ability to transport resources to their troops in Taiwan immediately, resulting in quicker success than the 2-month plan Senator Applebaum proposes. Eventually, they'll be forced to retreat, and that's a huge advantage. Senator Eads, China's grand number of troops doesn't matter if they don't have weapons or supplies. But what role does Russia play in this militaristic approach? The Washington Post tells us on July 20th, 2021, Russia and China are enhancing their alliance through cyber attacks against the US. In this current scenario, Russia-China cooperation will be detrimental to American efforts. By leveraging Russia, we decrease the likelihood of cooperation. They will comply because the Atlantic Council reports in 2021, sanctions have annihilated Russia's economy, and Russia wants to persuade the West into easing sanctions so they have any hope of economic growth. Take this approach to weaken China's military offensive capabilities, minimize casualties by putting Washington in control, and end this conflict as quickly as possible. Pass plans 2, 3, and 5 to subdue the heat of conflict.
Thank you, Senator, for a speech of 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Seeing as that was our 8th speech, we are now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All who wish to question the speaker, please raise a placard now. That will first go to Senator Schiff.
Hi, Senator. So can't Russia just turn to China for economic ties?
Yeah, so the problem is that your argument was in a vacuum in the sense that you're assuming that their only leverage comes from China. We have immense economic leverage over them, and they don't want to risk that relationship either. In fact, they openly stated that they want us to decrease our sanctions, which is why we have that leverage.
But doesn't China and Russia also have like very close economic ties.
But also, the U.S., because of our sanctions, have slashed foreign credits and foreign direct investment and reduced Russia's economic growth by $50 billion a year.
Doesn't Russia have other allies in the region they can
Senator
join?
Resnick.
Okay, in the last session, it was explicitly stated that Russia was in support of all of the U.S.'s agendas thus far. Why would anything change? Even if we choose to all of a sudden support Russia and include them in our policy.
Well, even if that's the case, that's a good thing, right? Because then we're preventing China and Russia.
No, but that's the thing. Russia was in support of our policy last time, and now the president is dead. How does anything change?
Because by having support from Russia, we prevent them from
But we
cooperating to
already had
any sort of.
We already had explicit.
We prevent any cybersecurity.
The question block
escalation
has
in
elapsed. The
Ohio.
speaker and all questions may mute themselves. Seeing as with our 8th speech, we're now in line for another speech. All which speak, please raise a placard now. That will go first to Senator Yoon.
I thank the chair for the recognition for the reference to the chamber. Still Senator Yoon, for the sake of efficiency, I know we're all tired. I'll just get right into it. Can everybody hear me all right? And PO, I can't see anyone else right now because my internet's not that good. So if you could hear me, could you just tell me that you can?
I hear you.
Splendid and wonderful. All right. I will. And yeah, I'll just begin. During my 3 years in this Senate, not once have I ever felt so sure that we ought to pass something as the Odom Act. But that ship has sailed. China has currently killed both the president of our ally and has hostaged our American troops, and the Chinese military has taken over our joint military operations in the Chinese Taipei. It's time for decisive action. And as the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, I stand before this chamber to advocate for the Yoon Act, a set of 3 provisions to mitigate the Chinese threat at hand like no else. The first and most important provision under the Yoon Act is provision number 4, to assassinate highly ranked Chinese military officials. Now, this is a picture of Xi Jinping, and this is a picture of Xi Jinping after I get through with him. But in all seriousness, there is good reason to carry out these political assassinations. While Senator Wilkes touches on this, Senator Capelloni and Wang are right. He crucially doesn't explain why assassination solves this conflict like no other. As Northwestern University explains in 2005, strategic political assassinations in times of crisis has immediate solvency. The United States Military Academy furthers in January 2015 that the reason this happens is simple. Assassination de-escalates conflict. See, when we kill a foreign leader, we see something known as the cutthroat effect. The people making decisions for war then fear for their own lives, forcing them to both slow down and bringing them to the negotiation table, like Senator Capelloni wants. That is to say, rational actors want to stay alive, and under a world with strategic assassination, their own threat of dying is mitigated when they slow down their actions. But why is this so effective? Turn to Foreign Policy in February 2018, which explains that China's autocratic political structure is focused on one thing, making it to the top. They're all self-interested, and you can't do that when you're dead. So Senator Kukreja, China has basically declared war on us. It's not just enough for us to hope they're nice or to attack them because they'll just attack us back. Prefer forcing their individual decision-maker incentives to come to the table. Now, truth be told, it's incorrect to assassinate President Xi, but rather assassinating their lower-ranking military officers forces them to slow down this rapid aggression. This is the heart of the Yoon Act. And Senators Lin and Konda, this is the only way to incentivize these leaders to stop this madness by affecting them personally, which no other proposal does. Everything else just triggers a response. And Senator Konda, EMPs cripple our country too. But further, the second part of the Yoon Act is to ensure the global community is behind us. Senator Karim, I just got off a call with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Indian PM Narendra Modi. All of them have agreed to stand behind us in our actions. That's why the Yoon Act supports provisions 1 and 5, like Senator Alakwa, to work Russia into this agreement and to sanction everyone else that does not fall in line. They are with us or they are with China. This ensures global compliance. As the famous saying goes, we don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Thank you, Senator, for the 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Seeing as that was our 9th speech, we're now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All which question the speaker, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Lin.
Hi. So our secret spy network isn't that secret considering we're being live streamed right now, right?
I don't know that we're live. I didn't know C-SPAN, did secret briefings online, but I don't know. I don't think so. I hope C-SPAN doesn't display this to the world.
Is that we say that we're going to assassinate Chinese officials. What incentive do they have to keep any American alive in their country?
I will say, no, it brings them to the negotiation table. And even at your highest ground, let's say that there is that incentive, it forces them to be scared. It's the only thing that changes individual incentives.
Senator Eads.
So going off of that line of questioning, considering that they just executed Taiwan's president, if we start killing their officials, what incentives do China have to keep our hostage troops alive?
No. So what I'm saying is, if they kill our military, we kill their military, and it just escalates conflict. The way
Is
to
that not mutually
de-escalate
assured
conflict...
destruction?
No, wait. So, well, I mean, you just argued against your own point. But more importantly, the incentive level analysis that I'm giving you is that they're scared for their own decisions. They have no incentive.
But they have our hostages, right?
Sure.
So a few officials or
The question block has
25,000
elapsed. Speaker and all questioners may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 9th speech, we're now in line for another speech. All wish to speak, please raise a placard now. I will go to Senator Karim.
I thank the chair. Hey everyone, that's Senator Karim, K-A-R-I-M, speaking for the second time on this piece of legislation. No bad puns this time, I promise. Judges, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and assume that all the judges are ready, just verbally indicate, so maybe that'll be faster. Okay, then I'll go ahead and begin. At the very beginning of this round, I told you that the United States serves as the bastion of peace across the globe. Because even when global affairs takes a turn for the unthinkable, and the level of injustice inflicted on innocents is unspeakable, this Congress should always be unstoppable in our pursuit in restoring stability to the world. So first, let's understand what sort of policies ought to be supported by this Congress given the situation of this debate. The answer is provisions 5, 7, 8, and 4. Now, at the very beginning of this debate, Senator Ling brings up a very good point into Senator Capilonian questioning. How are we supposed to kick China out of the UN Security Council if they're on the Security Council themselves? But here's the one critical response that no one in this round has given you. When we devise our plan, the order of instituting the plan is of prime importance. So first, let's start on provision 5, to reduce targeted sanctions toward Russia to ensure compliance and combat Chinese expansion of power. Senator Resnick in questioning already reaffirmed that Russia is in support of our policies, meaning that we can properly secure this provision. That's so important because if we want to remove China, we need to ensure that none of the permanent members of the Security Council votes as vetoes, including China itself. So even if you don't buy Senator Locker's response of a 2/3 majority needed to kick a permanent member out, Senator Lin's concerns are solved. So next, let's assess provision 8 regarding proposing the removal of China as a UN Security Council member, leveraging UN funding. No one who was in favor of provision 8 actually showed you how we have leverage. Let me be the first to show you how that's the case. The Council on Foreign Relations on August 4th of this year quantified that the United States remains the largest donor to the United Nations, contributing roughly $11 billion in 2019, which counted for just under 1/5 of funding. So then, we can finally mechanize provision 8 to ensure Taiwan can be admitted as a permanent member, finally triggering international support to take whatever action we want against China in the future, and ensuring that the long-term issues are solved. But Senator Kondo rightly points out that short-term action is of utmost significance. It's because of our ignorance of short-term action that directly led to the unfortunate death of Tsai Ing-wen. That's why the 4th provision, supported by Senator Wilkes and Yoon, is the best option we have to ensure that those at the top who are making the strategies and that are making the moves basically aren't able to do that anymore because of our assassination capability. But I want to spend the remainder of this speech solidly contending with other provisions proposed by senators in this debate. First, on provision 1, Capiloni and Xie understand that we only end up hurting our own allies who fear economic implications if they take direct action against China and stand with the US. Next, on provisions 2 and 3, championed by Senator Kukreja, Applebaum, and Wang, ignores that China can use their vastly superior navy and missile capability that can easily destroy. Because as desperate as the situation seems, peace isn't unreachable. Pass my proposal.
Thank you, Senator, for that 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Seeing as that was our 10th speech, we are now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All of which question the speaker. Please raise a placard now. That will go first to Senator Applebaum.
Hi, Senator. So who has the most superior navy in the world?
I would contend that China has been expanding for years and years after, yeah. So I would.
No, it's the U.S. Just because China has more ships does not mean they're a better navy. So why can't our U.S. Navy presence blockade China?
Yeah, here's the thing. Everybody in this round has already characterized to you the vastly superior missile capability that China has, meaning that they can destroy the blockade. We have to be realistic with what policies we're going to choose. I showed you, and the rest of those who supported my provision showed you how that's.
Is China more likely to attack us for defending Taiwan or killing their leaders?
Here's the thing: we're already embroiled in conflict. The truth of the matter is, if we want to have short-term action, we need to take that by
killing their leaders a viable solution?
Yeah, because I told you short-term action is necessary.
So how do we ensure that they wouldn't retaliate against us then?
They already retaliated. Basically, what we do
under
is
the status quo they have not.
The question block has elapsed. The speakers and all questions may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 10th speech, we're now in line for another speech. All wish to speak, please raise a placard now. I'll go first to Senator Resnick.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. That's Senator Resnick speaking for the second time. Just assuming all my judges are ready. If you're not, any indication? All right, I'll take that as we're good to go. According to the New York Times in 2017, only 34% of Americans were accurately able to identify Taiwan on a map. But according to Xi Jinping, in just 1 week, no one will. Now, I hate to crack jokes here, but I thought that might finally get your attention. Because in the last session, we told you that China would advance regardless of US action. We told you that only negotiations have the capability for leverage in the long term. We told you all this, and yet you voted against it. Lucky for this chamber, you get a second chance because all of that is still true. First and foremost, this chamber needs to recognize the fact that punitive US challenges are simply not as reactive as they've been framed thus far. With the passage of Sean, we sanctioned, militarized, and rallied the world. China didn't care. Those in favor of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 have tried to frame it as taking a stand, but sanctions, troops, international isolation, we've heard this story before, and it wasn't a happy ending. And no, it wasn't because we weren't able to knock out their grid like Senator Conda told us, or because we didn't kill their officials like Senator Wilkes and Yoon told us. In fact, the common denominator behind each argument is this false assumption that by making more advances, the CCP would just collapse. The truth is, no matter how comprehensive our attack, no matter if Senator Yoon is a sharpshooter, there will always be a retaliation mechanism. The fact here is, conflict was never about how much pressure we can exert to bend Xi Jinping's policy, because he never was going to. Why? Well, like Senator Yoon told you in the last session, Taiwan is not an issue of economic loss. It's an issue of regional hegemony. It's about protecting the CCP's reputation as a superpower, because Taiwan only became a threat when the US became involved. It became a global conundrum, and any type of antagonization is only going to intensify the stakes of loss for China here. If we increase our violence, it remains the tit for tat I told you it was going to be in the last session. That means more violence, more death, and no solvency. It's not just redundant to pass the same policy, it's reductive. So how can we preserve democracy? Well, I think that burden still stands here, and I think all of my argumentation is still very valid. Negotiation is our best recourse, with the sole provision I support being provision 7, in which we engage Taiwan in the UN's council. The reason that's important is because it allows us to engage the UN court system to not only free our hostages, but also find accountability as well. China is more likely to come to the table here because it represents that the United States is not taking military action, but rather is trying to find a peaceful resolve. It's called good faith negotiations, and it's historically been more likely to garner a concession. Think the Soviet Union and North Korea, in which good faith negotiations have brought back hostages for the last 50 years, where wars didn't. Our failures are only as valuable as the changes that come about because of them. I hope that you recognize that when you cast your provision ballots today.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Seeing as that was our 11th speech, we're now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All which question the speaker, please raise a placard now. That will go first to Senator Yoon.
I think the chair, Senator, if we attack China, they just escalate and attack us back. If we go to the strait, they escalate and go to the strait. If we kill their military, they kill our military because decision makers don't have a problem with escalating conflict. If we threaten to kill their decision makers, it de-escalates conflict because you finally give their leaders a personal incentive not to escalate. They don't want to escalate tit for tat, like you say, when it threatens their own lives. Doesn't that directly force them to negotiate?
There's a sole decision maker in Taiwan. It's Xi Jinping. He's easily.
That's not true, though. No, their autocracy has like 25 people in it.
Xi Jinping has final say.
Hey, Senator. So China has tried to reject Taiwan from the UN for the past 70 years. How's trying to get them involved good faith negotiation?
That's the thing. I'm glad you asked. It's a comparative. Does China either want us to militarize against them, or would they rather come to the negotiating table in an international forum? I'd argue that that's much more plausible and more likely.
How is it plausible if it hasn't worked in the past 70 years?
Because we've never been at such a violent point in conflict, right? This is a climax of conflict.
Yeah, but you claim they'll never give up Taiwan.
Regardless,
the question block has elapsed. The speaker and all questioners may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 11th speech, we're now in line for another speech. Always speak. Please raise a placard now. Senator Kaiser.
I thank the chair once again for the judges. That's Senator Jethwani Kaiser speaking for the second time and presumably last time in this legislative session. So barring any objections. All right, wonderful. Looks good. In Mandarin, the number 4 is considered to be the single unluckiest number. Hospitals have no 4th floor, apartments on 4th floors are cheaper, and people refuse cell phone numbers if 4 appears too many times. Senator Wilkes was right. Before, China had nothing to fear. But it's fitting that passing exactly 4 of these provisions finally gives them a reason to. As one of the last speakers in today's round, let me synthesize the opposition's arguments and evaluate which provisions this Congress can count on. First, let me establish why numbers 1, 4, 6, and 8 actively worsen the situation. So number 1, Senators Capelloni and Senator Z at the start of the round say economically sanctioning countries who fail to recognize Taiwan ensures we have global backing. That might be true, but with only 15 states officially recognizing Taiwan as the Republic of China, according to the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, this would sanction all of our trade partners. A single day of an American industry shut down would be enough to cripple our economy for years to come. That's too high a price for me to pay. So number 4, Senator Wilkes, even if China can't see our spies coming, it's not exactly rocket science that we're responsible. And opening the floodgates to dangerous retaliation like assassination jeopardizes this very room's safety. Senator Yoon, China already assassinated President Ingwen. We don't know what else they're capable of, and we don't want to be next. Number 6, Senator Kanda, you're right that this would cripple China, but by disabling homes, cars, planes, even hospitals, we threaten tens of millions who aren't involved in the conflict. That's where I draw the line. Ending this conflict isn't worth mass murder. And number 8, realize that China is one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. Senator Karim, Senator Ilakwa, it's not that we can't remove them, it's that doing so impedes diplomatic conversations and splinters the UN, the glue that holds our world's institutions together. So pass provisions 2, 3, 5, and 7 to take the fight to China directly. Earlier today, there was still a chance of resolution, but now much more drastic measures are necessary. Number 2, sending more military aid to Taiwan. Senator Ilakwa says that won't work considering the Sean Act didn't help Taiwan before. And Senator Capelloni says we can't fight the full force of China's military. Like Senator Kukreja, I disagree. Here's why. Look to number 3. Number 2 works because by establishing a naval blockade, we isolate Taiwan from the mainland, making sure our ground troops only need to fight Chinese forces already in Taiwan. Not 2.8 million troops, the couple thousand already there. The first congressional memo already established that we have the support of 8 other global powers like Russia and the UK, so our blockade will work, Senator Karim. Together, 2 and 3 make sure our army can drive China away. Next, number 5. Senator Z, you say Russia's not on the same page, but they've already declared support for Taiwan. This means we're able to use these sanctions to garner additional support. Lastly, number 7. The last true solution is welcoming Taiwan into the UN like Senators Capelloni and Z already told you. That's a given by recognizing them as independent and has no consequences for the US. Today, the number 4 isn't a bad omen. It's a design catastrophe for China's military. Let's put fear in China, not Taiwan's people. Pass solutions 2, 3, 5, and 7.
Thank you, Senator, for the speech of 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Seeing as that was our 12th speech, we are now in line for 2 blocks with our cross-examination. All those questions, speaker, please raise a placard now. I'll first go to Senator Capelloni.
Hi, Senator. Great speech. When you responded to my arguments about Provision 1, you said it would cut off trade with our major allies. Can you give me an example of an ally we cut off trade with?
Okay, so let's say, for example, the UK, right? They said that they would support Taiwan, but they haven't officially recognized Taiwan as an independent country. So when we passed Provision 1, we put
Senator,
sanctions
in
on
the
the
first memo, it was in the context of Taiwan declaring itself an independent country, and it says the United Kingdom backed that. Why would they not then recognize
The memo doesn't say that they backed their independence bid. They said that they stand in solidarity with Taiwan.
No,
Either
it
way,
says
there's
they are in support of Taiwan declaring
So you say we can't assassinate Chinese leaders because they'll know it was us.
Yeah.
Why does that matter if those Chinese leaders aren't alive and can't do anything now?
Because there's still going to be other Chinese leaders who can assassinate us.
Wait, but there's not that many. If all the authorization has to go through Xi Jinping and we assassinate Xi Jinping, how does their military have any coordination?
Okay, even if authorization needs to go through him, once he's gone, other people will step up and fill that void. The Chinese government isn't going to operate when there's nobody to authorize
Like,
any
even if
sort
they
of
know,
military
like, what's the worst case scenario? If they
The
know
question block has elapsed. The speaker and all questioners may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 12th speech, we're now in line for another speech. All wish to speak, please raise a placard now. We'll first go to Senator Prasad.
Thank you. For the judges in chamber's reference, that's Senator Prasad speaking for the first time in today's legislative session. If it helps you find me on your ballot, I was the third speaker in favor of the Sean Act. And I'm going to assume my judges are good to go unless somebody audibly lets me know or just puts it in the chat. All right, awesome. Is my PO ready? Solid. When I started off this round on why we choose to fight for Taiwan's freedom, it was never about symbolic pride or democratic arrogance. It was about protecting the unprotected, giving a voice to the voiceless, and standing up for those that have been stood over. Because it is high time to follow up on what we've promised as a country. We have to pass Plan Globe with provisions 6, 5, 8, and 7. First of all, everyone in this round has tried to argue that our goal should be try to realistically push China out of Taiwan. In the next 3 minutes, I'll break down the most practical way to achieve that goal. We have to compile international support so we can maximize our mutual defense contracts from the previous Sean Act. Senator Shane Resnick, I told you last round in this debate, it's no longer China versus Taiwan. It's China versus the entire world. Let's see how this reality feasibly materializes once we decide to act on that initiative. First, we passed Provision 6 to launch an EMP that takes out Chinese communications. Like Senator Kanda already told you, we need to cripple China immediately so they can retaliate against further actions or threaten our current hostages. Senator Resnick, this isn't hoping China backs down. It takes swift, practical, and decisive action. But next, Senator Yoon and Wilkes tells you that assassinating their leaders through Provision 4 is better because it disorganizes their military. An EMP disorganizes their military way better because communications and power grids don't come back instantly. But the next ranking military leader steps up as soon as you kill one. They want to avoid war, but last time I checked, assassinating military leaders sounds like a pretty clear declaration of war to me. China has adamantly held Taiwan's freedom at gunpoint. And so long as we don't call the shots for Taiwan's independence, they have to take all the bullets. But next, once we cripple China, I side with Senator Karam and Capelloni to pass Provisions 5 and 8. Senator Shane Alak will say that Russia won't comply because they see China and Taiwan as one. But remember, the scenario brief showed us that they are switching sides with this provision. This provision gives them a reason to stay. Once they do, we have every United Nations Security Council member on board to remove China from the UNSC. Why is that so important? Because we can enact our final provision, number 7, to propose that the UN Council that Taiwan can be admitted as a permanent member. With China out of the UNSC, they can't veto Taiwan's bid. When Taiwan is in the UN, on the global stage combined with NATO, calling us for to lead an independent initiative, they have closer relations with the rest of the member countries who are now far more likely to support them through our mutual defense contracts and treaties. Senator Yoon and Resnick, we can't change China's incentives. We're forcing them out when they can't retaliate. Senator Capelloni, China's navy may be 20% larger than ours, but they don't stand a chance against the international community. Senator Resnick, Taiwan isn't a lost cause to defend. Remember the values we stand for. Remember the allies we must fight for instead of ignore. Because to me, Taiwan's liberty is of utmost importance in this round. The question is, do you?
Thank you, Senator, for a speech of 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Seeing as that was our 13th speech, we are now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All who wish to question the speaker, please raise a placard now. Senator Wang.
Hey, Senator.
So you and a few other senators are talking about like the EMP halting Chinese communication, right?
Yeah.
Can you prove to me that China doesn't have defenses against an EMP attack?
That's literally like what the super EMP does is that like they can't respond to it.
They've been preparing though. Like, does China have their own super EMP weapons then?
Yeah, but it only matters if they act first.
Yeah,
If
you just told me that
they
they
can't
have their own weapons, right? By provoking them with our EMP. Like, China for years has threatened its
use
military.
your weapons if they get
Do things like guns and sticks work after an EMP has taken toll on a country?
Sure.
Okay, so in that case, if you say that they're not going to attack our troops, what stops them from just like blatantly killing all of them with guns once they see that the
because
EMP logically originated from the US?
They can do that. Like they could try doing that, but realistically they wouldn't because the entire world is going to be against them. I told you.
Isn't the world entirely against them in the status quo? Like, why would they support a country that's trying to?
The question box has left. Speaker, no questions may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 13th speech, we're now in line for another speech. All who wish to speak, please raise a placard now. I'll go to Senator Lin.
I thank the chair that Senator Lin just spelled L-I-N. I was the 11th speaker for the Odom Act last time. I think you guys are all ready, so I'll get started. I hate to say it, but I told you so. I told you that aggressing China and having no long-term plan for stability doesn't work. This round, once again, has lost track of what the main goal of this whole discussion is: to save the remaining American troops inside of Taiwan. That's why my advocacy is a bit unique. Fail every single one of these provisions because you only put American lives in more danger. Every single clause either forces China into further aggression or directly benefits them. Here's how. First, by forcing Chinese retaliation through clauses 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. Through sections 7 and 8, we propose to add Taiwan to the UN and remove China. This gives no agency to Taiwan at all. I beg of you, please just go to the UN website and search up how to join. None of its 5 permanent members can veto your request at all. And guess who's one of the members? China. That's also why you can't kick China out, Senator Capelloni, Kukrija, Alakwa, Karim, and Prasad, because even with a 2/3 majority from the rest of the Security Council, vetoes aren't able to be overridden by permanent members. They stay on no matter what. And even if it did, with what government would Taiwan show up with? The memorandum we got so that China is Taiwan's government now. Senator Resnick, there is still potential for retaliation through this act. Reuters in May of 2021 explains that when Taiwan bids to join the WHO last year with their support of the US, China blocked their access to vaccines. The tension right now is at a critical point. They can do much more than just blocking medical mandates. But sections 3 and 6 either move forces by their coast or into space. Look at 2 past presidents. The first is literally with the Sean Act when you tried sending American troops into the ground. And the second is explained by Al Jazeera in July of 2021. When we sent our Navy into the South China Strait, their only response was to attack Philippine ships, our allies. Senator Conda and Prasad both tell us that we can solve this through EMPs. But Forbes in July of 2020 already explains that China has this technology too. You threaten them with it, they do the same with us. Senator Wilkes, Yoon, and Karim are all advocating for Section 4, which is assassinating ranked military officials. Problem is, you only put them into a binary because this threat isn't a secret. We're live streaming it right now. They can do the same because there's no incentive to now keep any American troops alive. That same fear incentive that Senator Yoon talks about exists also with the American government, because what do you think happens when American citizens see that their troops have been assassinated because of our threats? But second, this only benefits China even more through clauses 1, 2, and 6. Section 2 literally sends 25,000 troops and $1 billion in military aid. I have one question for Senator Applebaum and Wang. Who are you giving the aid to? Are you like parachuting it to them in bundles? Because there is no military to send it to that isn't under China. Senator Ilakwa, Wang, and Kaiser want to recruit China through Section 5. But the South China Morning Post 9 hours ago exclaims that Russia just had talks with China, reaffirming the one China policy. I am standing here 1 hour after we decided to sacrifice peace for pride. Even after a total takeover of Taipei, the senators here are falling for the same Trojan horse again. Don't do it one more time. Fail.
Thank you, Senator, for a speech of 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Seeing as that was our 14th speech, we are now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All with questions to the speaker, please raise a placard now. They'll first go to Senator Applebaum.
Hi, Senator. So please tell me how Provision 3 is going to lead to Chinese retaliation.
Provision 3, which one is that?
The Navy one. If the U.S. has a more powerful Navy than China, how can they retaliate?
China's already in Taiwan. Even if we have a more powerful Navy than them, they're on the ground already. They can kill Chinese and American people.
Exactly, but that means they can't resupply their war effort. What? Like,
what do you mean?
If they can't resupply their war effort because we control the seas, how does that impact anything?
There's also the air, too.
Senator Kareem.
They defend the air, too.
Hey, Senator Lynn. So I spent practically 2 minutes of my speech emphasizing the importance of passing like different provisions and orders. So when we pass provisions 5 and 8, then why exactly is that not going to remove China from the Security Council, making sure that Taiwan can join?
I told you that even if you don't think the UN rules are fair, you cannot be vetoed by a single permanent member country. There's no way to override that veto. You can't get China to veto themselves out.
If you eliminate China, then you're going to be eliminating that one veto, right?
You don't eliminate China either. I already told you that Russia. I already told you that
The
Russia.
question block has elapsed. The speaker and all questioners may mute themselves. Seeing as that was our 14th speech, we are now in line for another speech. All wish to speak, please raise a placard now. Senator Eads.
I thank the chair, sorry. Making this super easy, any indication if you are not ready for my judges and PO, that is Senator Eads, EADS, speaking for the last time this legislative session. Assuming everybody's ready, I'll begin. Taiwan just released Taiwanese Monopoly, the Taiwanese edition of the classic Monopoly board game. And it's ironic, because the game Monopoly seems really similar to our reactive foreign policy, in that it's seemingly up to chance and going around in circles. But it's time to stop rolling the dice on foreign policy. Here's the thing. I support the advocacy of provisions 5, 7, and 8, but I won't waste time rehashing their benefits. Instead, let's first settle 3 of the most contentious points in today's debate. First, surrounding option 1. Senators Capelloni and Shia argue that it's good because it forces the international community to back the US. In reality, sanctions would be a catastrophic misstep. The ultimatum could lead to countries aligning with China because it removes any middle ground that they could find. As the US prepares to combat China, we need to marshal as much economic power as possible, especially considering that we likely just lost all of Chinese business, which the Peterson Institute 4 days ago quantifies as $63.9 billion. We can't afford Senator Yoon's China or America only approach. Then, surrounding option 2. This one's really simple. As Senator Lin accurately explains, we cannot send military aid to a country China has invaded, and this is especially true considering that their military leader, Taiwanese president, is dead. Finally, we hear about options 4 from Senators Wilkes, Yoon, and Kareem, which, put bluntly, is the worst thing that we could do. Cambridge in 2018 explains that the Chinese government and military are designed to have multiple levels of redundant officials such that killing some would have a negligible impact on their ability to actually conduct operations. The New York Times in 2017 furthers that utilizing covert resources in China as assassins would lead to a counterintelligence crackdown. Understanding what China is doing in the future outweighs any symbolic military actions. Additionally, the United States launching an assassination campaign removes any incentive to keep our hostage American troops alive. China has already executed the Taiwanese president. Now is not the time to poke the bear. But considering that I am today's last speaker, and we've unilaterally yet to discuss one of the provisions we're going to vote on in 5 minutes, I think it's imperative that we do so now. We hear a little bit about option 6 from Senators Khanna and Prasad. However, let's actually explore the science and why we must fail. The McKinsey Institute in 2020 finds that if the US takes out Chinese satellites through an EMP, it sets a precedent that China can and will retaliate. Contrary to his advocacy, Senator Prasad, they will not be frozen. This is not science fiction. China has EMP retaliation capabilities, but voting for option 6 does directly harm us by costing much of our military communications. Dushwala in 2020 finds that we'd lose critical intelligence resources needed to monitor the Chinese government and the status of the crisis in Taiwan. Today, it's time to stop playing games with lives and foreign policy, support provisions 5, 7, and 8, but more importantly, fail provisions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Seeing as that was our 15th speech, we're now in line for 2 blocks of direct cross-examination. All of which question speaker, please raise a placard now. That will first go to Senator Konda.
Hey, Representative. So let's say we pass provision number 8 and China is actually removed as a member of the UN Security Council. Is China going to be happy with that or not happy?
I'm guessing not happy.
Right. And so they're going to start, killing off American soldiers on the island in order to retaliate, right?
It's looking like China is already in a position to be killing people, considering they just executed the Taiwanese president.
But if we take instantaneous action that isn't like creating a long drawn out conflict, then they don't have the ability to respond, correct?
I'm sorry,
Senator Kaiser.
Hi, okay. So if we're not going to be taking any sort of military action against China, presumably we have to do something diplomatic, right?
Right.
Okay, if we're taking them out of the UN, how exactly are we going to be talking with them?
I think at this point in time, we're not talking with them anyway. At this point in time, they have hostages in place.
So hold on. We don't do anything to stop them with our military, and we don't try to tell them to stop either. We just let them keep doing it.
At this point in time, we have no way to stop them with our military. The
So
only
we just
options
ignore
that
them
we are presented with is sending
The question
25,000.
block has elapsed. The speaker and all questions may mute themselves. Given that that was our 15th speech on this debate, are there any motions? Senator Resnick.
I move to the previous question.
Any seconds? Anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition and unanimous consent, the chair will now move to the previous question. We will now have a vote on all 8 provisions. I will read out the provision, then I will call for a vote. First, I will call for affirmative votes. I would ask that you hold up your placard and put it down when I call your name specifically, and then negative votes again. Hold up your placard and put it down when I call your name specifically. We will do this for all 8 provisions, and then the ones that are passed will be combined into our final piece of legislation. So first, provision 1. The United States shall economically sanction all countries who fail to recognize the independence of Taiwan. Affirmative votes. Senator Yoon, 1. Senator Capelloni, 2. Senator Shi, 3. Senator Prasad, 4. 4 votes in affirmation. All negation votes. Senator Kaiser, 1. Senator Resnick, 2. Senator Karim, 3. Senator Applebaum, 4. Senator Kukreja, 5. Senator Konda, 6. Senator Wang, 7. Senator Wilkes, 8. Senator Lin, 9. Senator Eads, 10. Senator Lacqua, 11. By a vote of 4 to 11, Provision 1 does fail. Provision 2, entitled The United States shall send an additional 25,000 troops and $1 billion in military aid immediately to the island of Taiwan. Affirmation votes rise. Senator Wang, 1. Senator Kukreja, 2. Senator Kaiser, 3. Senator Applebaum, 4. Negation votes rise. Senator Resnick, 1. Senator Yoon, 2. Senator Karim, 3. Senator Konda, 4. Senator Capelloni, 5. Senator Eads, 6. Senator Lacqua, 7. Senator Lin, 8. Senator Wilkes, 9. Senator Shi, 10. Any abstentions on Provision 2? Seeing none, I believe we only had 14 votes on that provision. So I'm going to quickly have a revote. I'm not going to read the provision again, but can we ask for affirmation votes again? Senator Kaiser, 1. Senator Applebaum, 2. Senator Wang, 3. Senator Kukreja, 4. Negation votes. Senator Resnick, 1. Senator Yoon, 2. Senator Karim, 3. Senator Konda, 4. Senator Capelloni, 5. Senator Wilkes, 6. Senator Lin, 7. Senator Eads, 8. Senator Lacqua, 9. Senator Prasad, 10. Senator Shi, 11. So by a vote of 4 to 11, Provision 2 also fails. Provision 3, entitled, The United States shall establish a naval and land blockade on the border of China at the Taiwanese Strait. Affirmation votes rise. Senator Applebaum, 1. Senator Kaiser, 2. Senator Wang, 3. Senator Kukreja, 4. Negation votes rise. Senator Resnick, 1. Senator Yoon, 2. Senator Karim, 3. Senator Konda, 4. Senator Capelloni, 5. Senator Lin, 6. Senator Wilkes, 7. Senator Eads, 8. Senator Lacqua, 9. Once again, we did not, Senator Prasad, 10. We only have 14 votes out of the 15. Is anyone abstaining from voting? Did anyone not vote for the affirmation or the negation on this provision? Once again, I'll have to call for a revote. Affirmative votes rise. Senator Kaiser 1, Senator Applebaum 2, Senator Wang 3, Senator Kukreja 4. Negative votes rise. Senator Resnick 1, Senator Yoon 2, Senator Kareem 3, Senator Konda 4, Senator Capelloni 5, Senator Eads 6, Senator Lin 7, Senator Wilkes 8, Senator Shah 9, Senator Prasad 10, Senator Alakwa 11. By a vote of 4 to 11, Provision 3 also fails. Provision 4, entitled, "The United States shall launch a covert operation to assassinate highly ranked Chinese military officials." Affirmative votes rise. Senator Kareem 1, Senator Yoon 2, Senator Wilkes 3. Negative votes rise. Senator Kaiser 1, Senator Resnick 2, Senator Kukreja 3, Senator Wang 4, Senator Konda 5, Senator Applebaum 6, Senator Capelloni 7, Senator Eads 8, Senator Lin 9, Senator Ilakwa 10, Senator Prasad 11, Senator Shah 12. By a vote of 3 to 12, Provision 4 also fails. Now, moving on to Provision 5. The United States shall alleviate targeted sanctions on Russian officials in order to cooperate with them on Taiwanese assistance. Affirmative votes rise. Senator Kaiser 1, Senator Kareem 2, Senator Yoon 3, Senator Wang 4, Senator Capelloni 5, Senator Eads 6, Senator Ilakwa 7, Senator Prasad 8. Negative votes rise. Senator Resnick 1, Senator Kukreja 2, Senator Applebaum 3, Senator Konda 4, Senator Lin 5, Senator Wilkes 6, Senator Shah 7. By a vote of 8 to 7, Provision 5 does pass. Moving on to Provision 6, the United States shall, in a cooperative effort with SpaceX, launch a space EMP and various space-oriented offensive measures at China. Affirmative votes rise. Senator Konda 1, Senator Prasad 2. Negative votes rise. Senator Applebaum 1, Senator Capelloni 2, Senator Eads 3, Senator Ilakwa 4, Senator Kaiser 5, Senator Kareem 6, Senator Resnick 7, Senator Yoon 8, Senator Wang 9, Senator Lin 10, Senator Wilkes 11, Senator Shah 12, Senator Kukreja 13. By a vote of 2 to 13, Provision 6 does fail. Now moving on to Provision 7, the United States shall propose to the UN Council that Taiwan be admitted as a permanent member. Affirmative votes rise. Senator Resnick 1, Senator Kaiser 2, Senator Kareem 3, Senator Capelloni 4, Senator Eads 5, Senator Prasad 6, Senator Shah 7. Negative votes rise. Senator Applebaum 1, Senator Ilakwa 2, Senator Konda 3, Senator Lin 4, Senator Yoon 5, Senator Wang 6, Senator Wilkes 7, Senator Kukreja 8. By a vote of 7 to 8, Provision 7 does fail. Now on to Provision 8. The United States shall propose the removal of China as a UN Security Council member, leveraging UN funding. Affirmative votes rise. Senator Kareem 1, Senator Capelloni 2, Senator Eads 3, Senator Ilakwa 4, Senator Prasad 5, Senator Shah 6, Senator Kukreja 7. Negative votes rise. Senator Applebaum 1, Senator Konda 2, Senator Lin 3, Senator Kaiser 4, Senator Resnick 5, Senator Wilkes 6, Senator Wang 7, Senator Yoon 8. By a vote of 7 to 8, Provision 8 does fail. So, seeing as we have voted on all 8 provisions, congratulations to this chamber for the passage of the Spencer Act, consisting of Provision 5, the United States shall alleviate targeted sanctions on Russian officials in order to cooperate with them on Taiwanese assistance. And with that, I will turn it over to Tab. I believe they have a message.
Hello, everybody. Congratulations on completing the final round of FBK Congress. You guys all did a great job. You should be extremely proud of yourselves. I hope you had fun with it. We do have a scenario update based on the provisions that you have passed and failed.
Okay, so based on what you've chosen to pass, what you have chosen to fail, I come to you with a saddened heart. Elon Musk lost so much money due to this war, stopping his Tesla factories in China, that he legally lost his mind. Due to SpaceX being so powerful, Due to SpaceX being so powerful and its owner losing his mind, he sent space missiles to Taiwan and sank it.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this live stream, and then we're gonna give you some updates for what to come next. Okay.